Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Super Uniques. That's right. Today we're going to be talking about the Super Uniques in Act 2. But before we get started with the Super Uniques in Act 2, let's go over really quickly what Super Uniques are, for those of you who didn't join me on the first episode. And, yeah. So I have a listing here, and unique monsters super uniques are unique monsters that always spawn in the same location with the same unique bonuses. Additional unique bonuses are randomly selected in Nightmare, and 2 additional bonuses are selected in Hell. Ignores target's defense only applies to their minions, not to the actual super unique itself. Negative target's defense is only half effective versus super uniques, but still 100% effective against minions. Freeze length chills instead of freezing, and the minions can still be frozen. Stun length has only a 10% chance of actually being applied, but suffers no other penalty. Effects altering the AI of a monster cannot be directly applied to super uniques, such as hits blinds target or attract, things like that would confuse. Those are AI altering effects. Those cannot be affected, cast directly on the super unique, but they will work on the minions. Life lost to crushing blow is halved, so whatever the crushing blow is you have, whether you're using a melee weapon or a bow, and because they're different numbers, whatever that number is, it's halved versus super uniques. So when you're talking about like a regular monster, you get like 25% reduction, which is 1/4, right? But it's only 1/8 with melee, and it's only 1/16 with ranged attack. Super uniques actually don't regenerate, which is quite interesting, but the bosses and the Ubers do regen, and also the minions regen, which is rather strange. Life drained by open wounds is also halved versus super uniques. Okay, so the first super unique that we're going to be going over today is in Act 2, and it is in the sewers, as you can clearly see, because I am in the sewers. And this is Radament. Radament is a quest monster as well as a super unique, and Radament is special because he does, of course, drop 2 items. Now, that's one more thing I need to go over for super uniques, is that all super uniques are special in a very special way, is that no matter what the player count is, no matter whether you're in P1 or P8, they will always drop 2 items. What those 2 items will be, well, is not exactly known, but until you actually kill them anyway. As you can see, here is Radament. Radament is an undead. He has extra fast or enchanted, lightning enchanted. Now, 2 of these modifiers are random, and that means that they don't always exist. So if you pull up a panel on Radament, what you'll find out is that Radament does in fact have a specific panel, or a specific effect, which is always on him. And he can resurrect, of course, other undead nearby, because he is, of course, a Herodrum as his base class. So because he is a Herodrum, he gets that for free, along with his ability to do other doojinks. The highest rune that he can drop in Hell difficulty, by the way, is a Burr rune, which is kind of interesting. He is level 78 in Hell difficulty, he is level 47 in Nightmare difficulty, and he is level 19 in normal difficulty. And I'm trying to see if I can find his individual effect. I believe it's extra fast. Yes, it is extra fast. So he is always extra fast, no matter how many times you find him. So do keep that in mind. He's not exactly the most prolific in terms of melee attacks. He does like to spam poison on you, though. The main difficulty with Radament, honestly, is just how difficult he is to get to, because he is in Sewers level 3. Sewers level 3 is not exactly the easiest to get to. However, I would recommend that you farm him during Terror Zones, because Sewers is actually surprisingly easy to farm for some characters. Obviously, there are some other characters that will have trouble in the Sewers, but quite honestly, there are also quite a few other characters that just have a really easy time with the Sewers. And it's actually really nice, high density, like Nova Sorceresses, Fist of the Heaven Paladins, things like that. Generally have a really easy time when it comes to the sewers. Let's move on to the next on the list. All right, so in Rocky Waste, there is a place called Stony Tomb. And in Stony Tomb, we have the super unique known as the creeping feature. Now, I do have to be careful, because the creeping feature is not something that really stands out. The creeping feature is actually a zombie. You may have come here 100 times and never actually seen the creeping feature. I can't remember which one he's on. Is it level 1 or level 2? But we will find him. Don't worry. The creeping feature is always cold enchanted, and he is always... let's see here. I'm trying to remember the other one. I think it is extra fast. He's always 2 different things. Poor little guys can't even kill me. Yeah, give me some potions. I need those. Give me all your potions. It's extra strong, not extra fast. Now, the creeping feature, I believe, is on level 2. I want to say he's on level 2. He's a zombie. So he's not going to be particularly fast. And Stony Tomb level 2 is actually a good place to go farm when it is terrorized. So keep that in mind. And of course, the level of the monster will change during the terrorized sections of the game. So you don't really have to worry about his level when he's terrorized. But when he's not terrorized, in normal difficulty, he's only level 2. He's level 18. And, not level 2, level 18. And in Nightmare difficulty, he is level 47. And in Hell difficulty, he is level 82. As you can see, he's not here next to the chest. So let's go explore around a little bit. Of course, we got these bothersome beetles. That's right, BBs. The BBs, the bothersome beetles. I'm trying to be careful not to accidentally kill him. There he is right there, the creeping feature. Undead, extra strong, cold enchanted, spectral hit. He is always cold enchanted, and he is always extra strong, so keep that in mind. If he ever rolls extra fast, you might actually be scared. But for the most part, because he is an undead, it's not actually particularly difficult to kill him or his minions. And every time you do Stony Tomb, you're probably going to end up... Ooh, a lemon. You're probably going to end up killing him. Because, well, you know, why not? I mean, you're probably going to be killing every elite anyway. And since he is an undead, he's actually surprisingly easy to kill. He is one of the zombies, though, which means he's always immune to poison. Which also means he's always immune to cold as well, because he's cold enchanted. Now, due to the quirk of the way that immunities work within Diablo 2, this means that he is never immune to any other element. Because you can only be immune to 2 elements at any given time, and because he is always immune to cold and always immune to poison, even if he spawns with fire enchanted, or lightning enchanted, or spectral hit, or any of those other things that could potentially make someone immune to other elements, he will never be immune to another element because, unfortunately, he is already immune to 2 elements. Which means that if you are, say, a fire character, a lightning character, a magic damage character, etc., you can literally come here with the guarantee that creeping feature will never be immune to any other elements other than cold and poison. So that's unfortunate for the cold sorceresses and the poison damage characters, because he's always going to be immune to those 2 elements. As always, creeping feature will drop me 2 items. As you can see, this time it was Carnage Helm and Hatchet Hands. This one is, since it is in the Stony Tomb, is not exactly the easiest to farm. But I will say this, Stony Tomb is actually a good place to go magic find when it's on Terrorized. When it's Terrorized, you can definitely get some really good loot here. And obviously, you get a super unique in Stony Tomb as well. One that most people might not even know existed. And that is the creeping feature. Let's move on to the next super unique in Act 2, which is Bloodwitch the Wild. Bloodwith. Look at me misspelling stuff. I thought I had it spelled right, so... Bloodwitch, not Bloodwith. Bloodwitch the Wild is a super unique that is always located by the golden chest where you get your Herodric Cube in Halls of the Dead level 3. So whenever you go to Halls of the Dead level 3, you will usually find a bunch of Herodrum here, some skeletons, and various other things. But the other super unique that you will always find here is Bloodwitch the Wild. Bloodwitch the Wild is always extra strong, and he is always cursed. which means that you will have the problem of having amp damage on you the entire time. Extra strong cursed is actually pretty nasty, and combined together with the right auras, he hits pretty darn hard. Of course, if you have lots of defense, he can't actually hit you, but that's neither here nor there. The modifiers that he spawns with can potentially make him dangerous, but as you can clearly see, in his current form, without something additional, like fanaticism, perhaps, he's not much of a threat to me at this particular point. Bloodwitch the Wild does have varying levels of 17 in normal difficulty, 48 in nightmare difficulty, and level 85 in hell difficulty. Right now, this area is actually terrorized, so he's actually much higher level than this. He's currently sitting at, the maximum level, which is like 99. I think he's sitting at a level 99 character. So when I kill him right now, because he's terrorized, he actually has the ability to drop everything. Of course, he drops me nothing, but that's neither here nor there. Bloodwitch the Wild is prohibitively difficult to farm, and unless this area is terrorized, you're probably not going to farm him specifically. He's one of the ones that's more out of the way than the others. He is always immune to cold as well, so if you are a cold damage character, not really a good target to farm for that reason. Let's move on to the next super unique on the list, and that is Beetleburst. Beetleburst is located in Far Oasis. And in Far Oasis, he's kind of random. I mean, he is always in Far Oasis, but where you will find him in Far Oasis is not always known. He always spawns with a bunch of minions, obviously, and he is always magic resistant. Magic resistant is a rather odd one. That basically just means that he is, how do I put it, more resistant to magical elements. Not necessarily immune to magic. It actually just increases his resistance to fire, lightning, and ice by a specific amount. Beetleburst is not particularly difficult to kill. He's a beetle, I mean, obviously, so he's always immune to lightning, which is one thing. Of course, he has so many buggies around him. So many buggies. Immune to physical. I can still kill him, though. It just takes me some time. They are so annoying, though. Oh, I desynced. Beautiful. That's usually what happens when you get surrounded in this game. You desync. Come on, trigger the fire. 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 There we go. Burn, itchies. And now the itchies burn. An interesting thing about immune to physical monsters, for those of you, since I am here, unfortunately, having to kill a million immune to physical monsters, is that once they are damaged, you actually can still apply open wounds and other such effects to them. It's actually kind of interesting. So here's Beetleburst. Beetleburst is, like I said, in a random location around the generalized area of Far Oasis. Honestly, you're never going to find him in the same place twice, but he is always in Far Oasis. He has a level of 19 in normal difficulty, a level 48 in nightmare difficulty, and he's only level 79 in hell difficulty. He is always immune to lightning because, of course, he is a beetle, and beetles are always immune to lightning, which means he could potentially be immune to other things as well. But he will always be immune to lightning first and then something else. So, like, if he's stone skin, then he might be immune to physical. And even if he has magic resistance is not going to make him immune to more than one element. So, for instance, in this case, you notice he's stone skin and magic resistant. Well, the magic resistant didn't actually make him immune to any other elements first before physical, so the stone skin made him immune to physical. He does have pretty good resistances, 40 cold, 40 fire, and 105 lightning. He has 0% poison resistance, though, which is kind of interesting. All in all, he's not exactly one of the best targets for killing specifically in a, how do I put it, like hunt. Just simply because you have to find him. So unless you have teleport or something of that nature, it's usually not all that great. And just to show you that even a physical damage character can kill an immune to physical damage monster, I'll literally show you the open wounds literally burning this target down. So basically what happens is you have to do at least 1 damage to the target for open wounds to have an effect, which I have, of course, the fire and some other little proccing effects which go off. And then once you proc those effects, then you can, of course, proc your open wounds and other things, which does damage to the target in other ways. It's actually quite interesting that you can still kill immune to physical monsters utilizing open wounds and other such effects. Next on the list is one that I'm going to have to spend some time to get to, and that is, of course, Coldworm the Burrower. Coldworm the Burrower is deep down in the maggot lair, and for you guys, I will make the journey down to say hello to old Coldworm. Ah, good old Coldworm the Burrower, writhing in a pit of her own agony. Coldworm the Burrower is a special super unique which is set up specifically for the staff. And Coldworm the Burrower literally, well, yeah. First off, all of the maggots, like the big maggots, can lay eggs. So, like, the sand maggots can all lay eggs on their own. Well, the Coldworm the Burrower can lay, basically, the big maggots. So, if you let Coldworm the Burrower, she will basically fill the entire area with maggots. And when I say fill the entire area with maggots, I mean fill the entire area with maggots. Within a very short period of time, if you're unable to stop this, she will lay tons of the big ones, which the big ones will lay tons of the small ones, and before too long, the entire area will become completely, just absolutely saturated with maggots. This can sometimes be an issue depending on how quickly you can actually kill this stuff and whether or not being surrounded by the maggots is a big issue for you. They obviously dish out lots of poison damage, and as you can see, I am just constantly poisoned. The big maggots spit poison at you, the little maggots surround you and make it so you can't reach the big maggots lay more eggs, and so forth and so on, until eventually you're just completely surrounded with maggots. Even the beetles, like, that are left in here from before actually can't get to me because I'm surrounded by maggots. Like, I gotta fight my way to get to the beetles just to kill them. Now, obviously, if you kill the big maggots, it will stop the baby maggots from spawning, but as she is capable of spawning essentially an infinite number of big maggots, there's really no end to them unless you kill the big queen herself. And I'm trying to get the queen isolated here so you can actually see her. She's a big mamba jamba looking thing, kind of reminds me of the movie Tremors. Now, she is always cold enchanted, and she is always magic resistant. This means that she actually always has 2 immunities. She's always cold immune, and she's always poison immune. And that is because maggots are always poison immune. And because she is given the cold enchanted effect, that means that she is always going to be cold immune, and she is always going to be poison immune. And I'm trying very carefully to not kill her specifically. And as you can see, she's just a big, writhing, giant maggot. Upon death, she actually emanates a huge, nasty poison effect, which is just killacious. And let's go ahead and see that real quick. The poison effect that she gives out is actually a poison rain, and it hits everything nearby. And even with pretty good poison resistance, you will probably still notice the poison. And it is very likely it will kill your mercenary too, which is pretty common. So after you kill her, usually you have to rush back to town and click on Atma, either to save yourself or also to save your mercenary, one or the other. Due to her ridiculously deep nature within the maggot layer and the fact that most people don't like farming the maggot layer, she's not a very good super unique to farm. There's very few characters that can farm the maggot layer effectively. One of them is the Freezing Arrow Amazon, which is very, very effective at farming the maggot layer, but as you can tell, because she's always cold immune, it does come with a little bit of an issue when you actually get to her. She is level 14 in normal difficulty, level 49 in nightmare difficulty, and she is actually level 88 in hell difficulty, which means that she can drop pretty much every single item in the game, being that she is above a TC 87 class monster, which is pretty cool. All in all, though, not exactly the most fun monster to fight. Obviously, there's no demons and there's no undead down here, so Fist of the Heavens paladins are kind of just out SOL. If I wasn't a North Star paladin that had Smite alongside of Fist of the Heavens, well, I probably never would have made it down here. Let's move on to the next one, and the next one is very fun too. This one is the Dark Elder. Now, the Dark Elder is kind of a strange one that sometimes has a static location and sometimes he doesn't. When you go to Lost City, and you look specifically for the Ancient Tunnels entrance, which is a popular farming location because, of course, Ancient Tunnels is a level 85 zone, and people like to farm Ancient Tunnels because it's a level 85 zone. Well, a lot of the times, Dark Elder will be next to the Ancient Tunnels entrance. So if you find the Ancient Tunnels entrance, a lot of the times you also find Dark Elder. Dark Elder is kind of unique in that he actually doesn't look like a regular zombie, even though he is a zombie. So when the first time you see him, you might actually notice that he doesn't really... That is the second Lemrune I have found in this run, literally trying to do this video. Just throwing Lemrunes at me. But he's a zombie, and he has a very unique graphic. Let's see if we can find him. So here is the Ancient Tunnels door. This leads us to Ancient Tunnels. And is Dark Elder near the Ancient Tunnels door? So in this particular case, he is not. It's very strange is that a lot of the times he is next to the Ancient Tunnels door, but then there's occasions where he's not next to the Ancient Tunnel door, and in those cases, whenever he's not near the Ancient Tunnel door, I swear he's like as far away from the Ancient Tunnel door as he can possibly get. So you might as well just go to the like exact opposite side of the map, and then generally you find him there. I think what it is he spawns in one of the two broken down city areas. There's like these little... I'm not sure what you call it. It's like just remnants of a city. And he tends to be in one of the remnants of the cities. And I guess there's two different remnants. So here's the other one right here. So what happens is, what I think with a Dark Elder is that Dark Elder only spawns in the city. The Ancient Tunnels entrance also spawns in the city. So if you happen to get the Ancient Tunnels entrance that does... have a Dark Elder in it, then that means that Dark Elder spawned in the city next to Ancient Tunnels. Whereas if you get the one that Dark Elder's not in, then you have the one where he spawned in the opposite Ancient Tunnels, or the one that's not the Ancient Tunnels, the one that has all the little fire towers and stuff like that. And you just kind of have to search around. As you can see, he clearly has a unique graphic compared to the regular zombies. He has like some clothes that are still on him. And even in the original version of the game, he was a very crazy blue color by comparison to the other zombies. So stuck out like a sore thumb. Dark Elder's a pretty good farm, though, because, well, he has some pretty nice effects. Let's go over him specifically. So in normal difficulty, he's level 20, which is a pretty high level. In Nightmare difficulty, he's level 49, and in Hell difficulty, he's level 80. As a super unique, he does, of course, always drop 2 items when you kill him. He is magic immune, which means that Hammerdens really are not going to be able to kill him. However, being magic immune does not mean he is Holy Bolt immune, which is a completely different thing. As you can see, I almost one-shot him with 1 Holy Bolt. And he's not particularly one of the more difficult monsters to fight. He is an extra fast zombie, though, which means he will actually chase you down relatively quickly by comparison to a lot of other zombies that you'll encounter. And he always spawns with the magic resistant effect, and the magic resistance effect just simply gives him 40% to all resistances, and makes him, just 40% fire, 40% cold, 40% lightning, etc. He also can very likely spawn poison immune because he's very close to poison immunity. He's at 75% poison resistance naturally, so any additional poison resistance that he might get from any other effects could push him over the top. Although he'd have to actually roll that specific one. I think Spectral Hit gives a little bit of poison resistance, but Magic Resistant doesn't. Not entirely sure on that. But he is mostly resistant to poison. Very easy to kill, though, as you can clearly see. I mean, I can pretty much just, like, 3-shot him with my my Smite, or I can 2-shot him with the Holy Bolt skill. Really, he's one of those monsters that you don't want to skip, though. So if you are going for Ancient Tunnels, and you're farming Ancient Tunnels repeatedly, it's a good idea to tag Dark Elder whenever you go and farm Ancient Tunnels, because usually he's next to the Ancient Tunnels entrance. But like I said, sometimes he spawns over here in the other little city area, and in that case, you might not find him next to the Ancient Tunnels entrance. But if you're a teleporting sorceress, you could always teleport over real quick and kill him and then come back. It's really up to you whether you wanna spend the extra time to go find him or not. Let's move on to the next monster on the list, and this one is one that pretty much everyone has killed before, and that is Fangskin. And the next one is Fangskin. Fangskin always spawns in Claw Viper Temple level 2. He is always down here in the depths, and sometimes he spawns on top of the Tainted Sun Altar. So it really kind of depends on how your luck goes. Obviously, he can charge, which is pretty nasty. On top of the fact that he's able to charge, he always spawns lightning enchanted, and he always spawns extra fast, which makes it difficult for you to run away from him in down here. He also spawns with some other Maw effects as well, depending on whether he's in Nightmare or Hell difficulty, but those are random. He is always cold immune, which makes him particularly nasty for cold sorceresses early on in the game. And he's also 75% lightning resistant as well, which means that if he spawns with any other resistance modifiers, like magic resistant or, for instance, spectral hit, he will be immune to lightning as well. He is a charger, which does make it kind of nasty for him. And depending on what kind of modifiers he gets, the damage output that he can do is actually kind of insane. He's extra fast already, so if he ends up with extra strong and something like fanaticism, he will literally rock your socks. He is level 21 in normal difficulty, level 50 in nightmare difficulty, and he is level 86 in hell difficulty, one level shy of being a TC 87 monster, which is interesting. He's not particularly difficult to kill for some characters, but the lightning resistance or the lightning enchantment does make it kind of nasty for some characters, depending on what kind of character you are. A lot of the times you can, however, just completely avoid him altogether by teleporting up here on top of the altar. But like I said, sometimes he does spawn on the altar, which makes for a rather interesting encounter. Although, honestly, if he spawns on the altar, you can go down at the bottom and you can, just kill him while he's up top, because he can't come back down. I've noticed this. The snakes can't climb the stairs. And if he's at the bottom, you can teleport to the top and kill him that way. You can still end up dying up here, though, because there are a lot of Herodrum that shoot dark stars and things like that around, so it can be particularly nasty. All in all, Fangskin is one of those monsters or super uniques that you really don't generally farm a whole lot. When Claw Viper Temple goes on Terrorize, he's not a bad choice, but he's just kind of too far out of the way, and quite honestly, the snakes with their stupid little charging abilities are absolutely nasty, and I do not like them. Sam, I do not like them, Green Eggs and Ham. A lot of characters will have trouble specifically with the charges from the snakes. Sorceress in particular, I know for a fact, she gets her socks rocked straight off. Now, the next one is ridiculously easy to get to, and that is Fire Eye. You can get to Fire Eye by simply going to Arcane Sanctuary, and then you can open the portal here. And Fire Eye is usually, but not always, humping the portal. Now, in the off chance that he's not humping the portal, he is usually through the door. And if he's not directly through the door, then you got one of the odd spawns where Fire Eye spawns slightly to the right of the portal over here. And in general, though, he's very, very, very close to the portal. As you can see, I've already found him. And Fire Eye is one of the invaders or the infidels or whatever you want to call it. There's a couple different names for these guys. And he is like any other super unique. He will, of course, spawn 2 items when you kill him. Super duper easy to get to, super duper easy to kill. As you can see here, though, he is fire enchanted, extra fast, lightning enchanted, and aura enchanted at the moment with Holy Freeze Aura. Particularly nasty version. He is always fire enchanted, and he is always extra fast. The other modifiers are random. So whenever you come through the portal, if he is on top of the portal, he is on top of you, wailing the crap out of you from the get-go. He is level 21 in normal difficulty, he is level 51 in nightmare difficulty, and he is level 81 in hell difficulty, which makes him a particularly easy target for a lot of things. Super uniques can be used to spawn Uber Diablo once Uber Diablo is ready to spawn. How you spawn Uber Diablo is the first super unique that you encounter in the first zone that you go to will spawn Uber Diablo instead of that super unique. Fire Eye is a really easy one for this purpose. You take this portal, Arcane Sanctuary, walk through this portal here, and Uber Diablo will spawn immediately in this vicinity because Fire Eye is either right next to the portal, which means Uber Diablo will be right next to the portal, or Fire Eye will spawn over there, and Uber Diablo will be over there somewhere. But for the most part, it is one of the easiest places that you can go that has access directly to a portal that you can spawn Uber Diablo in. One of the other really good Uber Diablo spawners is Eldritch the Rectifier in Frigid Highlands. It really depends on which one you want to do. Personally, I don't really see much difference between either one of them. They're both pretty good, and they both have direct access to a waypoint, so you're pretty good. It's not a bad thing. I do, however, like the fact that in Arcane Sanctuary, especially if you're a barbarian or something like that, you can pre-buff here. So you can come down, because you can't pre-buff in town. You can come down to Arcane Sanctuary, pre-buff before you go through the portal, and then walk through the portal, and then fight Uber Diablo. Whereas with Frigid Highlands, you have to go somewhere else and pre-buff, and then come back to Frigid Highlands, and then fight Uber Diablo. Because a lot of the times, he might be on the portal waiting for you, or on the waypoint in Frigid Highlands waiting for you to come back. Same thing here, though. He's on the portal waiting for you to come back. But at least you have a pre-buff area before you get in there. Next one on the list after Fire Eye is one that's actually kind of difficult to find. And what I recommend that you do is, well, you're going to have to go around to the various tombs. Now, this is, he's not particularly easy to farm. When Canyon of the Magi goes terrorized, it's a lot easier, but I'm going to give you probably the easiest method to figure out where ancient Kaa the Soulless is. First off, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the summoner portal, and when you go into the summoner's room, you're going to be able to find out which one is the true tomb. There are only 2 tombs in the entire tomb list that are true tombs. And what do I mean by this? Well, if you go into these tombs and you search them, a lot of the times what you will find is that they're very small. The bigger tombs, the ones that actually have some meat and potatoes to them, are the ones that are considered to be true tombs. There's 2 true tombs in Canyon of the Magi. One, of course, contains Duriel and Tal Rasha. The other true tomb, which is a very large tomb, is the one that contains ancient Kaa the Soulless. The ones that contain ancient Kaa the Soulless are going to have chests. The true tomb, or the Duriel's tomb, does not have a chest in it. Instead, of course, it has the actual Tal Rashas at the end. Now, the true tombs, the 2 true tombs, are very large, extremely large. So when you go into a tomb and you find this, which is basically where it's room on the left, room on the right, room up above. These are extremely small tombs, and the extremely small tombs basically are the false tombs. So as you can see here from this particular tomb, this is a false tomb, and the reason why this is a false tomb is because it's small. Easiest way to identify this as a false tomb. Now, if you go forward and you click on each one of the tombs and you go into them, you will very quickly be able to get a grasp of whether it is a very large tomb or whether it is a very small tomb. And it doesn't take much effort to go into the tombs and kind of get an idea. If you have more than a couple rooms in a row and it just seems to continue forever and there's multiple pathways that seems to continue going on for multiple different directions, then you know it's probably a real tomb. This one here doesn't seem to be a real tomb so far, although it could still be. But good lord, are there a lot of beat'ems. It's a good thing I'm a North Star Smiter and not just a Fist of the Heaven Paladin, or I would be screwed. So let's check one of the other pathways real quick, just to make sure. And this is a dead end right here. So that's not it. And then probably the next side is also a dead end. Either that or it's the chest, which it should be the chest. So let's see here. This is a pretty long entrance, but yes, it's the chest. So this is another one of the false tombs. And you can continue like this relatively easily, trying to figure out exactly what each tomb is. Or you can go and find the real tomb, but the real tomb doesn't have Tal Rasha in it. It doesn't have Ancient Kaa the Soulless in it. Ancient Kaa the Soulless is always in the false real tomb. That's how I like to put it. So when you come across the false real tomb, whichever one that one is, that's when you know you've got Ancient Kaa the Soulless. This is kind of difficult. In this particular case, you can kind of tell that this is a real tomb, and it has to do with the fact that there is a wall behind the doorway here. Unfortunately, the difficulty in finding Ancient Kaa the Soulless means that it's very not good monster to farm. A lot of these super uniques are exceptionally good for farming, like for instance Pindleskin, Eldritch the Rectifier, Fire Eye, things like that. Unfortunately, these not so much. Ancient Kaa the Soulless is so ridiculously difficult to find and get to that unless you're just simply farming this area because you are in, say, Terrorized, Canyon of the Magi or Terrorized Tombs. Terrorized Tombs is excellent EXP, by the way. Excellent. In which case, you're probably going to end up finding Ancient Kaa the Soulless eventually, just simply by running the tombs naturally. However, finding him the traditional way is very difficult. And instead of making you guys stand here and watch me look for him, I'm going to go ahead and pause this, and I will be back once I have located Ancient Kaa the Soulless for you guys. I might actually be in the right tomb. This is definitely a larger tomb, as you can see from that big four-way. The regular crappy tombs don't have big giant four-ways like that. Although this could also be Duriel's tomb. So instead of being the tomb with Ancient Kaa the Soulless, because the two big tombs are Ancient Kaa the Soulless's tomb and Duriel's tomb, you could potentially be, I could potentially be right now in the real tomb, which means Duriel. Let's play this one out before I pause it, because I think I might actually be in the right tomb. Unfortunately, Ancient Kaa is usually at the farthest reaches of the tomb. There he is. There him is. Ancient Kaa the Soulless. As you can see, he's deep within one of the fake real tombs. And Ancient Kaa the Soulless is a Herodrum, which means, of course, he can resurrect other undead. And he always has Mana Burn, extra strong, and lightning enchanted. So he is actually pretty nasty in terms of his damage output. Because, of course, he has access to that stupid Dark Star. And he's Mana Burn, which means he's going to hit you, he's going to steal your mana from you. I don't even know if he can actually hit me, but he's too busy resurrecting all the monsters that I'm destroying. Now, Ancient Kaa the Soulless is level 23 in normal difficulty. He is level 52 in Nightmare difficulty, and he's level 83 in Hell difficulty. Ancient Kaa the Soulless, again, like all super uniques, will drop 2 items on the ground when you kill him. He is always immune to magic because he is a Herodrum, and Herodrums are always immune to magic in Hell difficulty. He is actually also always immune to cold, so he is always immune to magic and cold, which means he will never be immune to lightning, he will never be immune to fire, he will never be immune to poison. And he dropped me a ring. Look at him. So very nice. Look at him. Very courteous little dude. 15% magic find. You can have it back. Now, for super uniques in Act 2, that's pretty much it. I did ignore the summoner because I consider the summoner to be a boss. Although the summoner is obviously always in Arcane Sanctuary, there is no reliable way to find him, and he does drop the Key of Hate. He is always going to drop the Key of Hate. Duriel, of course, who is the alternative to Ancient Kaa the Soulless, is in the real tomb, the real big tomb, and he, of course, has really crappy drops, too. Now, I will say this about him, even though he's not technically a super unique, he's a boss. If you farm him with quest bug. You can get some pretty good drops from him. The problem with him is that to quest bug him, you basically have to have an alternate character set up specifically for the purposes of quest bugging Duriel. And what do I mean by this? Well, basically, you take a character and you bring them to hell difficulty. You get them the staff. You take them to the tomb. You put the staff in the slot and you press the button, but you never kill Duriel. Okay? This means that the person is locked at Act 2 and can never progress past Act 2. You take this character and you make the game with this character, and then you join the game with a second character, and then you leave the game from the first because you don't want to accidentally complete the quest. This creates a Duriel that is quest bugged in that particular game because the first character that created the game has the quest bug for Duriel. Yes, it's complicated. And quest bug Duriel actually does have good drops. However, normal Duriel without the quest bugging will drop you a lot of gold, scrolls of town portal, scrolls of identify, arrows, bolts, and other stupid things that don't make a whole lot of sense. There are quite a few pictures around with Duriel where literally he has dropped 7 scrolls of town portal, which is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It's happened to me before. It's very disappointing. However, Terrorized Duriel actually dropped me a frickin' Soge. Go figure. My first Soge of Diablo 2 Resurrected. Moving on to the next episode, we will be going over Act 3 Super Uniques. And Act 3 Super Uniques are... I don't like them. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and keep watching.